Y'all wanted recruiting action? Well, Kalen DeBoer is giving you all the recruiting action you can handle.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, HSA Radio Network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Jimmy, Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, all of them, just kicking chicken right now when it comes to recruiting. It's really fun to watch. Now, here's what I want to remind everybody. We're about to get the flurry of commitments is flurrying right now. So what that means is later in the year, we probably won't get as many. So when other people are getting their flurries, understand this is our flurry time. And it's fun flurries right now. Alabama got 2 commitments yesterday. They were 2 nice ones. Some people weren't fired up about them. I don't know why. And if you aren't fired up about them, I encourage you to go check out our live emergency podcast from yesterday.
I was wearing the same shirt.
That tells you why you should be fired up.
We were wearing the same shirts.
We were wearing the same shirts because technically it's the same day. But that's okay. I was going to try and pull that off, and then you caught me. But all right. But Jimmy, some other guys are going to be making their announcement soon.
Yep.
Mac, you've been calling him Max Suter. Is it Max Sutter or Suter?
I think it's Suter. But sometimes I say Sutter because
Sutter.
Because the Braves had a relief pitcher named Bruce Suter back in the 80s, and that's how he spelled it, and that's how he said it.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't know. I honestly don't know. Sometimes we don't know. We don't talk to these kids, and one day we'll have a pronunciation guide show. That was very popular. We did that about a month ago, and we're gonna do that again, I think, before the season starts. So we do know how to pronounce all the names of the guys actually on the team. But some of the kids that commit, like the basketball player that committed the other day, I have no idea. They asked me on a radio show this morning, "You want to take a stab at his last name?" And I'm like, no, I did not. So I did not. I said, he's just Collins, the kid from Massachusetts, to me, until we learn how to say it. But no, I think it's Max Suter and he pronounced it like Bruce Suter, former Brave reliever. But I don't know. Heck, I say EJ Crowell and EJ Crowell too. I think it's Crowell, although at one point I was pretty sure it was Crowell, but I think it's Crowell.
I've been sticking with Crowell lately.
I think it's Crowell.
At least I think I have.
Yeah, I think that's remember. Right. So, the guy that I know knows that high school best says Crowell. He knows the school. So I think it's Crowell. And we need to know Crowell and Suter this week because they're announcing their commitments on Thursday. And we like where Alabama is. I just don't think that people need to be too certain. Recruiting things that are locks, they really never were locks. But in modern recruiting, there just can't be locks because there's money involved. And money can change like that. And yeah, we're optimistic, but I'm not even writing it down in pencil. I'm just, let's see what happens Thursday. I don't even think the guys at BOL have RPMs in for either kid. I don't think Wilt Fong has bombed either kid. So let's see, but I am optimistic.
I choose to believe they haven't Fong bombed or Bone bombed, Watts bombed any of these guys because they don't want to take away from their moment. And
could be
in this particular case, you could say that about anybody, but a lot of times when Fong drops a bomb like that, it is the announcement is like incoming quickly, right?
Yeah.
He certainly does some sooner. Like I think he's Fong bombed Sadarian Morgan to Bama. But again, I don't know, maybe because Crowell isn't much of a secret either. So I don't know. Well, maybe I'm just trying to talk myself into something.
I know this. Texas has made a real run at him, and a lot of schools aren't turning down Texas.
Yeah.
So Texas has made a real run at Crowell, and he's a good fit there. And heck, even myself, I've comped him to Bijan Robinson. I think he's really similar back to Bijan in terms of style of play, size, speed, all that stuff. And Max Sutter, there was a time when I'm like, okay, this guy's going to go to Alabama. You know what happened since then? Ohio State offered him. You know,
Yeah.
and they're tough to beat for these kids from the Midwest who kind of grow up with Ohio State kind of being a thing in the Midwest. So, again, I'm optimistic, but I'm not putting that in ink just yet. We'll just have to see Thursday with y'all, and if we're able, I'm sure we'll go live after their announcements, probably good or bad, as much as Alabama fans will be hanging on their every word, because these are critical guys. I've noticed some level of muttering and criticism after these last couple of commitments. There won't be if EJ and Mac choose Crimson on Thursday.
And think about this. Think if the dates were changed on some of these guys. Like if, for instance, the Javari Barnett, he commits on the day EJ Crowell is scheduled to commit, and Crowell commits earlier. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, my God, we get EJ Crowell and this four-star kid that was going to Illinois. That's awesome. Instead, because Barnett commits first, everybody's like, well, he's not Crowell or Kroll or whatever. So, and I'm saying we should be happier.
Here's another thing people do. Crowell commits before July 4th, and it's an earthquake. But then as we get towards signing day and Alabama spots are all taken and no one's committing to Alabama the week of signing day, people say, God, they're not closing very strong.
Can't close.
They're not closing. They closed back in July or back at the end of June for a 5-star running back. It's just the timing of recruiting it's so silly that really is a thing.
Because some people still hang on to that mantra of big dogs walk late. No, they don't. Big dogs already have everything sewn up.
Yeah, but when we were growing up, recruiting would take place in January and everybody commit around February 1st, which was really late because signing day was like February 5th. That's where the big dog's late. That was 2 entire recruiting systems ago. Then you had NIL. Now you got post-house settlement, and people still want to. I tell you, a lot of fans, and I get it, people don't live in the recruiting like me and you do. They don't live in it every day. It's harder for them to shake the old ways of thinking. It's hard because it's so ingrained and they're not in it every day. And I think that's why they say things like big dogs walk late and what's up with all these 3-stars, because it's new. It's new to them. We could kind of see this coming. We were talking about it before it ever happened, and now it's happening.
Yeah. But one guy who's going to be committing on July 4th. Now, there's a bunch of guys in that date range. Nolan Wilson is committing July 4th. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Until this recent update where he went to Miami and he said, look, Miami was fun and they're up there with Alabama. Now, Nolan Wilson also said after his Auburn visit, that was a lot of fun. They're right even with Alabama. Well, this visit to Miami, he hadn't mentioned Auburn anymore. And he just says, because nobody else has mentioned them right now either. But he said, Miami's right there with Alabama. The one constant I'm getting out of this is Alabama. And did you know he was going to commit July 4th?
I'm not sure. I think so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I knew. I don't know. I don't know what I do know this about Nolan Wilson. And this is the concerning part is this. And again, it gets back to, I know this is beaten a dead horse, and y'all are sick of hearing me say this, but it's a factor with every kid. Nolan Wilson and Tank Jones are sort of being recruited to the same spot, and you already have Jamarian Matthews there. So I'm not 100% sure Alabama gets both Nolan Wilson and Tank Jones. Now that said, and Nolan's committing first. Tank doesn't even have a date yet. It's probably August. Now, that said, this is Jimmy talking, not Alabama. I doubt Nolan listens to the show. This is just me watching Nolan Wilson play football in huddle. I think he might be an interior defensive tackle. You know, I don't think he wants to hear that. I don't think Alabama's recruiting him to play there. I'm just telling you, I think he's going to grow and be a big kid. And he won't end up playing the same spot as Tank Jones, because I think Tank's just a bandit, period. Tank reminds me of LT Overton, who's kind of an ideal bandit in Alabama's system. I think Tank is LT. I think Nolan Wilson might end up being more of a Jeremiah Beeman, James Smith guy in terms of position for him. but he's being recruited as a bandit and sort of wants to play bandit. I think signing Nolan Wilson and Tank Jones is going to be difficult is ultimately what I'm saying. And a lot of that has to do with house settlement stuff.
I'm going to go on a limb and say we get them both.
That is possible. I'm more optimistic about it than others. I hate when this happens. Some people close to the program say, no, that's not going to happen. I'm more optimistic that it will, because maybe that's typical of us. But people close to the program say, not so sure there about that it would be both. But Nolan Wilson does commit before Tank Jones. And Nolan loves Alabama. He could end up committing, Miami. I doubt it'd be Auburn. I think if it's not Alabama, it'd be Miami. But I'll be a little surprised there. But heck, Miami, they do recruit well in the new world.
That they do, sir. Other things that are fun in the new world, FanDuel. Because you love FanDuel. We all love FanDuel. FanDuel is the absolute best. You want to go give it a whirl. Summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach like a bunch of suckers. Look, I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. New to FanDuel? You're probably not, because you've been listening to this podcast and you take our advice. You follow us blindly. But new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today and you can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's FanDuel.com, or go check out that app, because that app is A-OK, and it's got the Locked On Bama stamp of approval.
We told y'all before the NBA playoffs started to go to FanDuel and bet on the Thunder.
We did.
We did tell y'all to do that.
We told y'all that.
Hopefully y'all did that. Hopefully that's the one time you listen to us. And frankly, you probably shouldn't listen to us again.
Don't listen anymore.
Don't listen again. But that one was right.
Listen to us, but don't
don't
listen to us on advice and stuff.
Yeah, don't bet on us. Don't use your money to bet on. But Thunder did win. Wasn't exactly going out on a limb there, but it just felt like SGA's year. That happens in the NBA.
So look, it's fine. Matt Moscano over at Locked On LSU, he loves to talk trash about Alabama. He says that, we're never going to be good again, or we're never going to be what we were. Well, no kidding, Matt. Nobody's ever going to be what we were. So that's okay. Auburn people talk trash.
Quite the low blow. You'll never be the greatest dynasty of all time again. Well,
you got us.
Maybe not.
So then there's, the Auburn folks, Tennessee folks, Georgia folks, Vandy folks, rightfully so. They talk their trash. It's SEC stuff. We kind of get it. I'm not used to a quarterback who was at Boston College last year, who transferred to a team
who sort of got run off of Boston College.
He got run off, who transferred to a team who his team beat last year. and they will go 2-10. And he comes out and says, I've dreamed of playing Alabama and beating Alabama, and we're going to beat Alabama. And not verbatim necessarily. That's essentially what he said, but it was so stupid I don't want to look it back up.
He said they don't have Nick Saban to save them anymore.
That's what he said.
They don't have Nick Saban to save them anymore.
To save us? Well, Thomas Castellanos, you were at Boston College. Y'all had Doug Flutie, and that's it. You had Matt Ryan. Okay, but he didn't win anything. You had Doug Flutie, and that was awesome for a little bit. Other than that.
Well, I don't think it's wise for the new quarterback of a 2-10 football team to trash talk Alabama from the SEC. I don't think that's wise. I just hope that, Alabama's, and I did see there was some minor clapback from LT Overton and Kelby Collins online. It wasn't over the top, so I'm not disappointed in that. But I just hope Alabama does talking on the field. This is the way I look at it. I know some Alabama fans will feel differently. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt last year. Alabama lost to 6-6 Oklahoma. Alabama lost to 7-5 Michigan. I think teams are going to get their shots in, and you sort of have to take it until Alabama gets on the field and beats these teams. And Alabama shows that they're still an elite playoff level program. So I'm not one of these that's like, Castellanos, he'll find out. I hope he does. I hope he does. I hope he finds out.
I hear you. I'm with you. I'm 100% behind you on this. But I think it's stupid. I don't care if I don't care if Florida State was, had the year before where they were undefeated. I think it's just, and I'd say the same thing. Look, if Ty Simpson had come out and said Florida State doesn't know what they've got coming, I'd be like, hey man, hush your mouth, Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that now because he didn't say that, but you know what I'm saying. And
it's a bad idea. Why give the other team not just bulletin board material? That was like a low blow. I mean, it wasn't like, Alabama's got it coming. It was like, y'all don't have Saban to save y'all now, as if Jonathan Allen needed Nick Saban to save him, as if Mika Fitzpatrick needed as if Daron Payne and Ashawn Robinson and Reuben Foster had Nick to bail him out. I mean,
Surtain.
It was a shot at Alabama and the Saban era, and certainly the current team. It was, but again, hey, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, and but Castellanos. One thing that's funny to me, and this is funny. Not everybody out there is a big Bill O'Brien fan, and I do like Bill a lot, and I respect him a lot as a coach. Bill is harsh as a coach. That's what kind of style is. He's harsh. He's really tough on quarterback. He's this tough. Bryce Young is the nicest human being on the planet Earth and the exact kind of kid you want on your team. And I am certain Bill O'Brien cussed him out 58 times. Bryce Young, because that's Bill's style. He's harsh. Okay. Imagine Bill coaching this guy. No wonder he left. No wonder he got kicked. That's like the most oil and water matchup of all. I mean, Bill O'Brien's going to cuss out Bryce, and that's just how the guy coaches. He's harsh. He's tough. He's demanding. And boy, Castellanos was a really poor fit in O'Brien's offense. Bill O'Brien wants a pro-style offense. That's why he went and got Dylan Lonergan. He wants a pro-style offense. Castellanos is an RPO Gus Malzahn guy, and it was just a bad fit. And now you see Thomas Castellanos' attitude. And boy, I bet there is some, I'm probably using the wrong word, hilarious exchanges between Bill O'Brien and Thomas Castellanos on that Boston College practice field. Oh, if only some of that was on tape. That's going to be a laugh riot.
I mean, I kind of dig it because it does create more of a sense of urgency and rivalry for this game in a way. But I have no issue with Florida State. I mean, I know Florida State probably – Danny Cannell hates us because we're in the SEC and because we leapfrogged Florida State to get into the playoffs a couple years ago, but rightfully so. So I get why some Florida State fans hate us. I understand it to a degree. There was just no cause for this. Like, what even – I haven't done research because, again, I've been on a job site all day, so I haven't seen – why would this even come up for him to make that? Why would he have the opportunity?
It's almost like a stray, the best stray of all time, because I saw it last night. Remember the big speech from Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men? Yeah. And he's just going off, and it's so awesome, and you're hanging on every word. And then out of the blue, he goes, who's going to do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? Yeah. And you're like, what? What was that? Why'd you just jump off? That kind of feels like what Castellanos did. He's on his rant, and then all of a sudden he's like, you don't have Saban to bail you out now. And you're like, what was that? Why would you even say that?
Well, it's not lost on me, too. I meant to say this earlier, that all three guys, so Castellanos starts it, Kelby Collins, LT Overton, they clap back a little bit. I'm sure some others have too, but these are the only ones everybody's talking about. All three of them are transfers. Yeah. So it's like, what does Castellanos know about Alabama at all, having been at Boston College, not even sniffed the playoffs in God knows how long? What does he know about winning football at all? And then he comes to Florida State, starts talking trash about a team that's not a natural rival, and two guys that also transferred in clap back at him.
I
It's
encourage
kinda
people
funny.
to
It's a sign of
read.
the times.
I encourage people to read the Peter Nakos piece where he's interviewed Castellano. Castellano says a bunch of stuff. He even talks about how he's so grateful to be at Florida State because he's now got good players around him, and he didn't have that at Boston College. Boston College
Again,
beat Florida State last year.
king of the strays. You know, and by the way, what I said earlier when I was like, hey, if Ty Simpson said that, I'd say, shut up, Ty Simpson. Well, it made me think, and again, I know some people hate when I do this, but I'm going to tell you because it's funny. Shane Gillis, if you've ever listened to him, pretty funny, and he does a spot on Trump impersonation. And he was talking about how, Trump is the GOAT of debates. He goes, I know you can hate him. It's fine. You hate him, whatever. We all hate him. But he said he's the GOAT because he said, you remember what debates used to be? Everybody'd show up and go, I'm from Kentucky and I love education. Everybody go, this is good. He said, somebody go up, I'm from Connecticut and I love fiscal responsibility. And everybody, oh, this is a great debate. This is a great debate. And he said, you know what Trump came out there and did? He came out and goes, Rand Paul is ugly. and Rand Paul was like,
Well,
and he said the whole debate changed from that point forward. And Rand Paul was like, we need to keep this civil. And he said, remember, the whole crowd was like, shut up, Rand Paul, you ugly jerk. That's what it made me think of. And again, I'm not being political. I'm just repeating a Shane Gillis bit, which is
you're
funny.
just comparing Thomas Castellanos to the president of the United States.
To the president who dishes out strays for no apparent reason.
He does dish out strays.
Oh,
both
God.
of them.
Pretty funny stuff. I'll probably get a note about never saying anything about anybody ever again. Okay, so your roster countdown. Sometimes we lose sight of it. We shouldn't because it's awesome. And you're up to number 39. We're in the 30s, Jimmy.
Can you believe it? Yeah, Sunday was actually 39 days out, and here we are. This is the Tuesday show. Sunday, 39 days from practice starting is Olaus Alinen. And we're saying that correctly because we talked about him on the pronunciation guide earlier this summer. Olaus was a big story this spring. He was a guy that kind of went into the spring, and I'm not sure there were high expectations based on his first couple of seasons at Alabama. And then he had to move to tackle. Alabama's got some a depth situation at tackle. And I think this is Jimmy's theory more so than being told this by someone inside the walls. But it just seems to me that Alinen was so good this spring in terms of endearing some level of confidence that they didn't sprint to the portal to find a body to use at tackle. If they did, obviously Jackson Lloyd got a chance to play, but he's a true freshman. But I think if Alinen hadn't been as good as he was, they might have gone to the portal, not to get someone to push Proctor and Formby. I think they're sort of set as the starters, but depth is a concern. I think Olaus tampered some fears about the depth at tackle. That's how big his spring was. He's a talented kid with some length, so he can play outside or inside. I find it interesting that he's been at guard for 2 years and sort of like, is he ever going to be a thing? Is he ever going to be a starter? Maybe. And then they move him to tackle, and he's kind of a story. I hope he stays at tackle myself because that's where he made some noise. Obviously, Alabama could need at least one new starting tackle in 2026. Alinen will be in year 4 in 2026. So I like this kid. I'm glad he's here. He seems to be he's very involved in recruiting all the time. Really cool that he's from, originally from Finland. Cool to have on the team. We have him all the way up here in the 30s at 39 because I think we're going to see him play almost every week in either garbage time or even some level of rotation, perhaps at tackle. But I do think most weeks we're going to see Olaus play. And gosh, you hope none of the tackles get hurt. But let me tell you, if Proctor or Formby gets hurt, this dude could be in the starting lineup. So
I'm not against
one to watch.
I would love having one starting tackle from Finland and one from Iowa. I'd bet you that's never happened in Alabama history.
No, I don't know that it's happened in world history because I don't think in Finland they have a lot of tackles from Iowa, and I don't think in Iowa they have a lot of tackles from Finland. So I'm with you. I don't think that's happened. But 38, gosh, here. This is how interesting this kid is. Let me build this up. I have no idea where to put this kid because I wanted to put him higher. I also felt like we should probably put him lower. I settled on 38, but he's a kid that a lot of people have almost forgotten he's on the team, and he's good. Jalen Hale, the wide receiver who missed all last year with his leg injury, very promising wide receiver, great size for the position, or good size for the position, good catch radius, had a pretty nice spring. He is coming off a serious injury, but he looked very healthy in the spring. He did not look limited. I know that they kept him out of contact. Of course they did, because that's just being smart. But when you watch Jalen Hale this spring, he did not look limited at all. He looked fine, and I think he's a full go this fall. I just think the only question with him is he going to play in front of Ryan? No. Is he going to play in front of Germ? No. Is he going to play in front of Isaiah Horton? I don't think so. But he's in that next group with Rico Scott, Cole Adams, Jalen Mbakwe, Lazier Brooks. I mean, there's some crazy competition for what amounts to the 4th, 5th, and 6th spots in the wide receiver rotation. Jalen Hale certainly in the mix. He could emerge from it as wide receiver 4. He really could. Or he doesn't, because the competition is so significant. But hey, every reason in the world to be excited that Jalen Hale's still on the football team. And I think because of that injury situation and all the excitement about these receivers, he's a little bit of a forgotten dude. But have him at 38th, the best player on the football team this fall.
Man, it still just boggles my mind that great catch he had against Ole Miss. It was a fantastic play.
Help turn the season around. If there's
100%.
one play that turned the season around, that was it.
And he should always be remembered for that. Again, that's why I think Jalen Hill's at a point where he can't really screw up at this point. There's some people that, have a play that turns the season around the other way, and it's hard for them to get over the hump. I think for him, it's going to be, if he doesn't really ever play again, I think everybody will remember that play if you're a true Alabama fan.
Yeah. But I think he's got other plays to make. Again, he's a great combination of catch radius and hands. But here's the thing. I think I would list him as a vertical threat about last on his list of traits, but he can get vertical on you. He can. He can make that play. He can do the go route. Seattle, Saban used to call four verts, or Seattle under Saban. I don't know what DeBoer is going to call it, but he can do that too. I mean, he checks a lot of boxes at the wide receiver, and he's excited to play, having to miss a whole year. And because he missed a whole year, that counts as a redshirt year for him. So he's a redshirt sophomore entering his year 3. Let's see that. I think some of the great position competitions in fall camp, Luke, aren't in the starting lineup. It's about spots in the rotation. Who's next? Who's going to be the 4th inside linebacker? Who's going to be the 4th wide receiver? Who's going to be the 3rd running back? I see those as the big time competitions in the fall. The starting lineup and the guys at the top of the food chain, I think that's pretty much set.
Yep. Yeah. On that play that I'm talking about with Jalen Hill, wasn't it a great catch? And wasn't that the play Jalen Milroe got smashed by Centurion Perkins?
Yeah.
And he got up, we thought he was hurt for a second, and then he got up and pumped his fist and the whole thing. Isn't that the same play?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is right.
Hell of a play.
Oh yeah, and it really turned the season around. I think it helped Jalen Milroe a lot during a difficult time for him. It helped the team, and it was kind of during a time when it's like, I think we're pretty competitive, but are we going to have enough offense to win? And then you make that big play. That Ole Miss team was good, and they're tougher to beat. That's just a good team. I mean, they're not Georgia, they're not Texas, but Ole Miss is a good team. They're not an easy win these days. Talking about something that's in the new world. I mean, this ain't your granddaddy's Ole Miss.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.